All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, thank you for being here this morning. We got open house boot camp today. So there is an assumption that if you are here, either open house is one of your pillars or you are considering it from your pillar. I believe everyone here does have it as a pillar. So we will get started with that. So Robert, why are you here today?
I'm here to smooth out my conversation, my conversion, work on getting them, funneled to the next step.
Okay. Eric?
I'm here to learn how to make them more effective and get more people through the door.
Okay. Alex?
Just kind of learn the preparation steps better. What I do
Okay.
on my week out, what I need to do each day, and then how to have the effective one day.
Okay. All right, so I'm hearing dialogue. Dialogue is critical, right? If you want to convert, you have to know what to say, when to say, how to say it, and say without hesitation, right? That is critical. Because if I hold a bunch of open houses and I don't have the right dialogue, my conversion rates are not going to be good. They're actually going to be really low. And then what happens is I want to blame open houses for not working, but in reality, what it is I haven't spent the time necessary to hone in on the dialogue, correct? Carry your point of getting people to show up. We'll talk a little bit about that. A lot of it comes with selecting the right open houses, right? And because it's going out there, as long as the listing agent gets it put out there on MLS, it's syndicating, correct? Means it's on Zillow, it's, Remax is pushing it out, it is out there. So the question is, are we picking the right ones, the right, right reasons, etc. We'll touch on that. Alex will talk about preparation a little bit, open house kits and all that stuff. Ryan, what about you?
Trying to think how to phrase this. Really, I'm just looking to see what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What can I add? Is there anything that I need to take out of my process, take away, something that I'm doing that's not necessary,
Okay.
just to kind of streamline that whole process.
So efficiency, yeah, what we're looking for. Okay, Greg.
Just to collect some information to add to my repertoire.
Okay, very good. So the key is you guys recognize that, you all are each here intentionally trying to learn one specific piece of your open house business, correct? Because that's why you come back to the class repeatedly, because you'll learn something today, hopefully, you'll study that, you'll practice it, you'll put it into action. And you'll say, okay, how's that working? Now I need to go back for my next piece. So Alex, right now you're wanting to know, okay, well, how do I properly set up? Okay, great, we'll hone in on that, get that right. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm not really comfortable with my welcoming dialogue, right? So it's like, okay, well, let's dig into that a little bit more. So it's piece by piece by piece over time, where you get better and better and better and better at your open house. Okay. So I'll do my best to make sure we try to hit all those. I will try to get through the whole class today. All right, you guys know how that normally goes. It's could end up being in 2 parts. I drunk. Well, we will do our best to get through. The purpose of the class is what? It is a proactive approach to effectively establish relationships with people who are seeking to buy new homes. Okay, I would venture to say I'm more interested in just making relationships. Would you agree? Because when the parents come through, like Carrie mentioned earlier, the parents came through, they're not looking to buy or sell right now, right? Do I just kick them to the curb? Absolutely not. I want to establish that relationship as well. Okay, so what I really want you focused on when you're doing open houses is your primary goal is relationships. Every single person that comes through that door, you are seeking to form a relationship with them. Okay? Most people that attend open houses end up working with the third agent they come in contact with. Why? Why do they not work with number 1 or number 2?
You never want the first choice.
Well, it could be, yeah. It's because number 1 and 2 were only looking for the low-hanging fruit. They weren't willing to stay the course with these people until they're ready to buy. Did you know that 50% of the people that come through an open house aren't going to buy for 6 months? It's a statistical fact, right? So if I don't have the right mindset, I show up to the open house and hold it open, and I say those people aren't interested, they're just tire kickers, not interested, and I let all these people go. That's why agent 1 and 2 don't get to work with that person because they don't have the right follow-up systems in place. Why do they not have the right follow-up system in place? Because they're looking for the wrong thing. They're looking for the person that's wanting to buy right now. I want you focused on relationships because eventually those people will buy. Okay, so we do not count them out. The expectation is we should be very confident to consistently go out and hold open houses. Okay, because your verbiage is gonna be different. Have you guys ever visited open houses as, you know, before you became a realtor, or even as a realtor, and saw how different agents handle them? Are some agents better than others? I remember walking in, one time I was actually an agent, I walked in and the agent was sitting at the table, sitting there with their feet up. And they said, let me know if you have any questions, and I'm like, I absolutely won't. Right, that does not impress me at all. So you'll have some agents that are extremely mediocre, they're just out there doing it to check a box. Just to be able to tell their sellers, yep, I held it open. Or to be able to tell their whoever, their DOD, that, yeah, I held an open house. Because I'm not there to see how you do it, okay? So we want to be very confident to hold effective open houses. Why? Well, ultimately, there's a substantial increase in our revenue, correct? There will be, I guarantee it. As with every momentum class, there is going to be an operational model. Well, here's our model for this one, because we're going to hold open houses. We're looking for new business, which will be buyers. However, are we only looking for buyers? No, we're looking for sellers as well. Okay. Is it not a statistical fact that every time a home hits in a neighborhood, how long is it going to be before another house goes on the market statistically?
And you say 30
30 days. Within 30 days, one of those neighbors is going to sell. Okay. And then within 30 days, another neighbor is going to sell. And then you see how that works? So maybe I don't get in front of the one that's gonna list in 30 days. What if I get in front of the one that's gonna list in 60 days or 90 days? Okay. That's why too many agents get uncomfortable with the door knocking piece and don't do it. They're not comfortable doing it, so or they'll go at a time and they're hoping nobody's home, knock real quick and then run off. Okay. Don't do that. If I want to effectively grow my relationships, I'm not only looking for buyers, but I'm also looking for what? New sellers. Okay. Looking for relationships. And then they move into our client care, right? What is our client care? It's that ultimate fan experience. So when they work with you, they're like, I have never experienced that in my life with a real estate agent. Because according to surveys, we rank pretty darn close to who? Car salesman. Isn't that sad? You consider yourself a car salesman? No. We are on a whole nother level. However, are there not a lot of people in our industry that behave that way? You ever co-op with them? You will, guarantee it. You're like, God, I don't work on you. Real, how do you get business? They are out there, I promise you. Okay. So we are setting the bar at a whole new level through that ultimate fan experience. That's your buyer and seller processes. Okay. And why? Because we want to leverage it. This says just sold. You can leverage through just sold, but I want us to go way beyond that. We leverage through top advocates. That's what I want you thinking about. Everybody that comes in is going to become a top advocate. So we want a very extensive, non-threatening approach on how we meet and follow up with these attendees at our open houses, okay? Has everybody held open houses and some people become kind of resistant? You ever had that? They're kind of guarded, they have the walls up. Yeah, we got to figure out how to break those barriers, right, and get through to these folks. So that non-threatening approach becomes very important. And it comes down to the questions that you ask, and we'll get into some of those. Now, I know some of you have been doing, you know, you guys have been, several of you have been in business for a long time. You've probably done a lot of open houses. I'm not saying blow up what you're doing. If you have a system that works and your conversion rates are high, keep using it. But you might find some little things that you can tweak on how you do things to get just a little bit better. Change your verbiage just a little bit, change the dialogue. Why? Here is the financial security of a proactive lead generator. So look, we're saying phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 all work the same amount of hours. When I say phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, what are we talking about? Let's just view that as year 1, year 2, year 3, right? My experience in the business, all right? So in year 1, I worked my 45 weeks and I'm targeting 2 open houses per week. Therefore, I have 90 opens. Let's just say an average of 5 people come through. That means that I have roughly 450 conversations. That's fair, okay? Now, the goal is with these people is to set appointments, correct? I want to be able to set appointments, so my first year, I'm only able to set about a 10%, I have a 10% appointment rate, okay? You'll notice though, this is when things start to change, when I start getting into year 2 or year 3. That number starts to change, why is that changing?
Finding dialogue.
Yeah, I'm refining dialogue, because my first year out there, especially my first few, like, I'm pretty nervous. Right, like I'm kind of stumbling all over myself, and I'll give you that, your first couple, you're doing good just to be there, okay? But that's why we're in class, to learn, okay, how should these conversations go? What if they ask these questions? What am I supposed to say? How do I break down these barriers? What is some dialogue to be able to further this conversation? Otherwise, I'm the new agent sitting there like, well, what do you think of the house? Oh, we liked it pretty good. Okay, you wanna buy it? No? Okay. Are you working with an agent? Yep. Okay, we'll see you later. I mean, like, that's the way the dialogue goes for the newer agents, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? Or we ask some of the, there's a lot of just bad questions. I'm not gonna talk about which ones they are, but you guys know which ones they are, okay? Don't ask questions that back you into a corner. The whole question of, are you working with an agent? Don't ask that, all right? Because what if they say yes? Where are you supposed to go then? All right, thanks for coming back, right? Yeah, it's like, no, I just backed myself into the corner, so the only follow-up to that would be, oh, who is your agent? Because go ahead and give me their name, I'd love to follow up with them, thank you for sending you by my open house, and I'll provide any answers to any questions they may have, right? And then I can carry it a little further, because if I just ask somebody in open house if they have an agent, what is 98% of them gonna say? Yes, I do. And why do they say that? Sure. Yeah, they don't wanna talk to you, right? It's like, you have leprosy, stay away, okay? With the commission breath, and however they view you, right? So we don't ask that question, or I shouldn't ask that question, okay? I don't even like the question of how long have you been looking as a first question, okay? I'm not a fan of that one, there's better questions, okay? And we'll get to that in a little bit, but you see here, what happens is my dialogue gets better, and I could shrink that, those could be quarters or 6-month periods, depending on how many you hold open, how much you practice, because all the dialogue you get today, where should it be going? Yeah, into your objection skill set journal, that's correct, right? If you hear something you like, you're like, oh, let me add that in my journal real quick, and then now I'm gonna start practicing that, okay? I'm gonna really refine that script to get it the way that I want it. Because what happens is, now I start setting more appointments, and look, more and more people start showing up for those appointments. What kind of appointments are those? What are we talking about? Buyer what? Consultations. Every single buyer that comes into your process should go into a buyer consultation. But what do the typical agents do? What does a typical agent end up doing in an open house? They gather information, and instead of trying to move them into a proactive process, meaning a buyer consultation, they're good with just saying, let me get you set up on the same search, and let's just start looking at houses. That's typical, okay? That is not part of the ultimate fan experience. The ultimate fan experience is, we get you into a buyer consultation, and I start to blow your mind with my process, okay? And remember, we talked about that, when somebody shows up for a buyer consultation, should that not already start to just amaze them? Right, because if they're gonna come into the office, Christina should already be expecting them, right? She should know their name, so when they come in, she can greet them by name and say, welcome, we're so happy you're here, we've been expecting you. Does that not feel good when you walk into a place of business and you get treated that way? It feels amazing. I walked in one time to get my will done at this place in downtown Lee Summit. I walked in and they're like, hey, Mr. Harvey, we're so happy you're here, we have some cold water for you, come have a seat, we're ready for you. Whoa. Makes me feel pretty good. I feel kind of special. Versus me having to kind of awkwardly walk up to the desk and say, yeah, Matt Hargrave, I'm here for an appointment. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll go to the seat over there. You see the difference? So as realtors, we should be providing that same experience for people. So they come in and boom, they're already like, wow, this is pretty cool. They walk to the consultation room and you have a sign on the door. And it says, welcome to the home buying process, Jerome. I can't tell you how many people have seen that and they're like, my name's on the board. Like, yeah. Okay, you just have a template, it takes you 5 seconds, print, slide it in, okay? Put it on the door. Some people, some of our agents have those little boards, you put the letters in or whatever, and they'll put it all up and set it up, on- that's fine too, okay? You're trying to make it a memorable experience. So they walk in, the table's set, you have your professional buyer consultation sitting there, maybe you already got some waters there, you got the pens placed strategically on the table. That is an open fan experience, that is different, so buyers from open houses, the point is, I wanna move them into that process so they can begin to experience that. I don't wanna be typical and just say, let me get you a search set up and let's go look at houses, don't do that, okay? We're trying to raise the bar for the entire profession, now Remax is voted the what? What have we been voting year after year after year? The most trusted real estate brand in the world. Country for sure, I think it's world, okay, that's a huge deal, and we need to live up to that standard. The company has that standard, now we as individuals have to live up to it. So as you see, what happens is, more people start showing up, why? Because I give them more value, they see more value in why they need to meet with me, and so they show up to the consultation, right? My show up rate for buyer consultations was well over 90%. Well over 90%, okay? And then what happens is your conversion rates go through the roof. My conversion rates were well over this. Okay, because of the value and professionalism that was laid out during the consultation, that's a whole other class, right? But that's important. Then what happens? I move from closing 10 to potentially 41. For putting in the same amount of time on open houses, okay? So that's really what we're targeting. We have a no do have. So in momentum, there's always a no do have. Who can tell me what that is? We have a couple newer folks here to momentum. What is a no do have? Let me give you a reminder. I always draw kind of like a Dorito here. Okay, this triangle represents everything you could know about real estate, everything you can do in real estate, everything you could have. Will you ever be able to know it all? Matter of fact, will you drive yourself crazy if you try to know it all? Yes. Can you ever do it all? Can you work all 15 pillars effectively? Not gonna happen. So what we do in momentum is what we say is all you need to know for open houses is this much. All you need to do is this much, and all you need to have is this, okay? We refine it for you, we make it as simple as possible. I want you guys to be experts in the 2 or 3 or 4 pillars that you've selected. That is it. I don't care if you're experts in, it's those 4 things, those 3 things, you need to be world class at those, okay? So we're gonna talk about what you need to have, what you need to know, what you need to do in real estate for open houses. The things you need to have. These are the things, and you guys should have a bunch of these in the back of your packet, right? But it's your follow-up list, your signs, your time sign, your registers, criteria sheets, clipboards, everything for that. What do you need to know? It's all dialogue. That's what you need to know. Okay. So we'll talk more about that as we go. But the key is to get focused. Focus on the right things, otherwise you'll get pulled in a million different directions. All right. We do like to check our beliefs. Do our beliefs matter? Why do our beliefs matter? Robert, you said yes. Why do my beliefs matter?
Your beliefs are gonna, whether you intentionally do it or not, it's gonna bleed out into the conversation, it's gonna, or God's is gonna say how you actually feel, intentionally or unintentionally.
Could I lie?
I mean, yes, you would.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but yeah, so I agree with you that verbally it comes out, but more often than not, it comes out in my actions. You know, because people can say a lot of things, but then their actions prove something different. There you go. Yeah, what's to say, the man who believes he can and the man who believes he cannot, they're both right. Okay. So we need to make sure our beliefs are right, because the way I think and what I believe is evident in my actions. My actions form habits, right? Habits form character, and we can move that all the way down into our legacy, right? So our beliefs, our thoughts matter. That's why it is critical. What thoughts are you entertaining in your mind on a daily basis? What is social media feeding you? What is the media as a whole feeding you? Because repetitive thoughts over time start to form beliefs. You believe that to be true? 100% it's true. You watch that documentary, I think called The Social Dilemma, and it kind of shows how they use social media to start to form the way society as a whole thinks. We have people in Congress right now that made it there because they were experimenting on social media. I think that's scary. You go from being a bartender 1 minute, your cousin signs you up, this thing just to show up and audition to be a congressperson.
I know.
And then, maybe you do, maybe you don't, right? But then all of a sudden you become a congressperson because they proved through social media they can make that happen. Okay, so we gotta be really protective. You gotta protect what's going into your mind, okay? So here's some beliefs that I need to have to be effective in open houses. I live in a world of abundance. How many agents are out there running around in a world of scarcity? A lot. You ever had agents who are unwilling to share something with you? Not in this office, that should never happen in this office. Every agent here is gonna be willing to share with you exactly what it is that they're doing. What about my only limit is time? We each have 24 hours a day.
I use that time.
That's how I use it. That's correct. That means I don't have time for waste. You better get really, really intentional with your time. How about I reap what I sow? You better be out there sowing every single day. Success stems from duplicable processes and systems. That one is huge. Do you have a system for your open houses? Is it written down? Is it something that you follow every single time? It should be. Because then all I have to do is go and make a little tweak here, a little tweak there. After class today, like, well, I'm gonna tweak this. It's a duplicable process and system, all right? Real estate beliefs in general, people will trust and follow what I can logically and tangibly explain. How does that apply to open houses?
Know your stuff.
Know your stuff? Yeah, I have to be able to justify why somebody should sit down and meet with me for a buyer consultation, correct? Anybody want to take a stab at it? I'm gonna be your buyer real quick. I'm at the open house. And you say, you know what, I'd like to sit down and do a buyer consultation with you. And I say, why? Nobody else has done that. What are you gonna say? I'll wait. Anybody?
I'd like to sit down and show you my process specifically, what to anticipate, may or may not come, you know, just be prepared for what's going to happen in the process of buying a home. Make sure that we have all our bases covered before we jump off into it. To, you know, smooth out the process and make it as smooth as possible, or, you know, to make it as easy as possible on you before we get to the closing table.
Okay, who would buy that? Who would sit down with Robert and do a consultation off after that justification?
It's possible.
Okay, Greg says I'll do it.
It's possible. It depends on how far into the process. If you're just looking, then
Okay.
that feels a little too pushy because you're already talking.
Okay.
about-
Okay, I'll give you that one, but we're just making the assumption that this person's like ready to go, right?
Okay.
But that's a good point. We'll talk about that labeling where they're at in the process. Because if they're like 6 months out, I may not go for that right now, right? I'm gonna target them in 3 months, okay? But based off of that, yeah, I'm with Greg. I might sit down with you. I'd be like, okay, that sounds pretty good. Anybody else have something that they would want to say?
I'm kind of in the moment kind of guy that I would ask questions like,
Okay.
is this the first house that you have purchased? Well, you know, so I can gauge their experience in the home buying process. And if they say, no, this is to be the first time I buy a home, then I will basically go into my presentation on how I will go about educating or informing them on how to the steps on how to buy a house, but I wouldn't give them all the information. Leave some
Okay.
out.
You're gonna give them just a teaser.
Just the teaser, then I will ask them for an opportunity to sit down and talk to me, go over it more in detail, to make sure they're well informed on the proper steps and what steps need to be taken to first,
Okay.
make sure they're ready.
Okay. I'll buy that, all right, so both of you, I think both of you have justified a reason why we should meet, okay? Now, in objection, the objection boot camp, right? We kind of talked about, it is important to be able to overcome objection, right? Because what I just gave you guys was an objection, correct? Nobody else has asked me to do this, why are you asking me to do it, okay? So being able to use that dialogue to overcome it is good. But what would be even better than that? What's better than overcoming an objection?
Proving,
What is it?
proving the opposite of what.
Proving the opposite, okay,
Preventing it.
preventing, yeah, that's where we're going. It's like, I would rather eliminate that from coming up, right? So before I ever go into an ask for an appointment, I am already layering value, okay? And remember how I said for me to have an intentional process, and the beautiful thing about that is the process is very streamlined. So it doesn't matter if I get a referral from a family or friend, I throw them into the funnel, they go into the same process. It doesn't matter if it's a potential buyer off an open house. It doesn't matter if it's an online lead, if it's a signed call, if it's a floor duty walk, it doesn't matter where they come from, they all go into the same funnel. And if you do that, it makes things so much easier, okay? Because we'll get into more dialogue later, but my dialogue to justify my appointment, I'm really getting ahead of myself here, but we're on this topic, right? So my topic is I want to eliminate them giving me pushback about setting the appointment, right? So what I do with them is after I ask the question, what process using, I kind of address that. Again, hopefully we'll get to that later. And then I go into, well, look, the process that I use is every single buyer that comes and works with me. What I do is I sit down and I do what I call a buyer consultation. That consultation generally lasts anywhere from 45 minutes to 60 minutes, something like that. And during that consultation, we're going to cover 4 key topics. The first topic I want to cover with you is what I call the state of the market. I'm a full-time real estate agent. What I do is I keep my fingers on the pulse of Kansas City real estate. So I know exactly what's happening, when it's happening, but more importantly, why it's happening. And I'm going to be able to explain to you that how the current state of the market is going to affect you as a buyer. That's something that's very important for you to know so you have the right expectations, okay? The next thing I want to cover with you is what I call mutual roles and expectations. It's very important for me to understand that you as a buyer, what is you expect from me as your agent? And it's also important that you understand what I expect from my buyers. Another thing I like to cover is what I call the steps of the process. Now, I understand you may have bought a house in the past, maybe this is your first one, but what I want you to know is currently what is every step of the process that you're going to have to go through so you know exactly what to expect, when to expect it, including any and all out-of-pocket expenses that are going to come along with it. And the final thing that I like to do is I like to do a detailed needs and wants analysis with you. Because your time is very valuable. I want to make sure I don't waste any of your time showing you properties that don't match your criteria. So we're going to get very detailed on exactly what it is that you need and what you want. That way I can ensure that we look at the right properties. Okay? So what I just did was I just justified the appointment before I even asked for it, correct? Because what I did is I educated them on if you work with me, you enter my process. This is the beginning of my process, and then my question to them is what? Those that have heard it before, I layered that value, okay? And I never had a single time in my career where somebody answered this next question with a no. I can't think of a single one, but what is the question that I then asked them?
Does that sound useful? Or
Yep.
valuable?
That's it right there. So I layer all that down. I say, does that sound like it would be helpful to you? I cannot think of an entire time in my career where I asked somebody and they said, actually, no, that doesn't sound helpful at all. Every person, when they're buying a house, do they not want education? Do they not want, and even drivers want some information. So you give them that script to justify the meeting before I even ask for it. I don't want to be doing it after the fact if I can help it. Is that helpful? They say yes. I already have an initial agreement with them. Do you agree? Like they've already said yes to that, like, yeah, that actually sounds really helpful. And then if they've already said yes to that, the follow-up question is, well, that's great. When would be a good time to meet? How many people are going to say yes to this and then no to that? Very few. Most of those people say, that sounds helpful. You say, when do you want to meet? And they say, well, whatever. Or I give them several options. I say, look, I can meet Friday at 4. I'll take you out to Panera Bread for dinner. Whatever you want. My office is a great place to meet. And you lock in the appointment. Okay. You lock in that appointment, and guess what? Your show up rate is going to be pretty high because they know what's coming at that meeting. It's not you just sitting down saying, okay, what do you want? But no, I'm educating them on what the market's doing. Because all they're seeing is all the fear mongering and craziness on social media and the news, right? That's what they're seeing. And we're going to show up to that meeting with what statistical data on what the market's doing and how it impacts them. People want to know that, okay? People want to know exactly what this process is going to look like. That was Greg's point earlier, like, they want to know, like, okay, what's going to happen? So they're gonna see value in that proposition you just gave them, like, this is what we're going to cover. And maybe I do throw a few little teasers out there. And they're like, man, I wanna know more. You're gonna get a much higher rate of people agreeing to show up to an appointment with you. As long as they are in the right stage of the process. So we'll talk about later when we look here in a bit. Does anybody have questions on that? But does that make sense? On how you can completely avoid that whole objection of, well, why should I do this?
That almost word for word how your process actually would.
It is, that is my process, like I'm
I
giving
figured.
you, yeah, and that way, when I sit down with my buyer, because I've sat in with some agents who sat down for buyer consultations before, and I'm just like. Are you prepared? Like, where'd this go? This is like awkward. It's like, no, you should have this process down. So when I sit down with it now, I may be in my conversation and say, okay, I need to touch less on this, maybe a little more here, a little less here, that's fine. But I already have this process down. I know exactly what we're covering in that consultation, okay? So when we sit down, man, like, we are efficient and effective with it, okay? If you sit with me in a consultation, there's not a whole lot of fluff to it, right? We do a little rapport building, then boom, we get straight to it. We get our plan together and I'm like, ready, break, okay, let's go, let's get in action,
That's
okay?
a big shocker.
I'm just saying. All right. Buyer believes time reveals all. That means you better be careful because you can sure waste a lot of time with buyers that aren't ready to go. So you need to have a really good process. We've probably all been there. The buyers you set up on the save search and they're kind of serious, but not really serious, and you show them houses for 2, like, that's okay. You just be careful, guard your time, okay? What we're looking for is MQL, motivated, qualified, and loyal people. That's what we want. Those are the ones that buy homes. Those are the ones that demand our immediate attention now, okay? So make sure you have a process to get rid of some of the ones that don't qualify as that. We're gonna move on here because we're really. I told you we may not make it through the whole class today, so we may do a part 2 on open houses. All right, let's talk about holding an effective open house and the process of selecting your open house, okay? And you guys have been, some of you have been doing, so you might already have some good ideas on that. Feel free to shout those out, okay? But I'm gonna give you some basic guidelines to use. Do we like to hold stale open houses? No, we really don't, right? Because really, once you get past that first weekend or two, all serious buyers, let's be honest, have come through the open house or have seen it with an agent. Do we agree? So if I'm 30 days in and there's no price reduction or no other reason to do one, who's gonna come through my open house? Somebody looking for a deal. Could be somebody looking for a deal, maybe just a neighbor. Now, can I still form a relationship off of that? Yes. However, would my time have been better spent at an effective open house where I had 7 people come through? I would argue I'd rather take number 2, all right? So what I need to do is, first off, is the house price according to really the goals you have set for your ideal buyers? Okay, why is that important? You're targeting a specific buyer pool, correct? Are we gonna go hold a bunch of $50,000 houses open? Probably not, right? Because I would encourage you guys to build a business based on, maybe if you're newer, the entry level prices, right? Because there may be a bunch of first time home buyers that haven't been working with an agent before. Maybe get to where you're like, man, I kind of like targeting more luxury stuff. Okay, just make sure you learn that, because there's different verbiage with that. It's a different clientele. In my experience, some of the luxury agents or luxury clients have bought multiple houses and sometimes already have some loyalty to agents. So just be thinking about that, but make sure it's priced according to what you're wanting. Is it in a good traffic area? Are your signs gonna be visible? Is it gonna be something that appeals to people, okay, and brings them in? And also, how well does it show? Some agents are better than others about prepping houses to go on the market. Would you agree? For sure. Because remember, homes sell for 2 reasons: price and exposure. Well, if I throw it on MLS, it's going to be exposed, right? Because it's going to syndicate out. Remax will pick it up and it goes to 250,000 different websites. That's true. So I have that kind of exposure. But the question is it exposed correctly? Are the photos, the way they should be? Are they ordered? Order of photos matters a lot. Like when you're putting your photos in, you need to make sure that you are putting them in a way that highlights the house the best possible way. Meaning, I gotta capture that buyer's interest within my first 5 to 7 photos, all right? If you throw some, and you don't give a good, clear way of how you kind of come in, experience, because I always go from the front of the house with 1 photo, 2 max, immediately take them in to the wow factors, which are generally going to be probably my living areas, and then the kitchens, because those are what people really want to see. Then I move directly into the master suite, then I go to bedroom 2, secondary bedroom, then I go to hall bath, then I go to the third bedroom, and then I would maybe go down to the rec room. Like there's a very logical, systematic way in which I walk somebody through a house. I've looked through some listing before I'm clicking, I'm like, I don't know how this house is laid out at all, right? Or they take 10 pictures of all these different views of the outside and then the garage, and like buyers have already said no, they're already on to the next one. Our attention span's like this. So even your photos matter. How you ordered those matter to get people in. So I want to hold open houses for the agents who are really good at that, right? I want to know that it's an agent that spent the time. They didn't just throw the house and they spent the time. No, we need to replace carpet here. No, we need to do some paint. No, we need to get an ozone machine in here to get some of this odor out, right? Like those are the agents you want to get to know and be like, okay, I want to hold your houses open. Versus the agent just comes in and says, yeah, just kind of clean it up, a little declutter, and let's get some photos, we'll throw it off. Okay? That's what typical agents do. You should be proud of every single house that's in your portfolio, in your listing portfolio. Okay? Even if you're handed the tenant occupied, rough looking investor property, you're gonna do everything you can to get it to the best possible way. Okay? So that you can be proud of it and say, okay, no, that's another good one, because that's part of your brain. When people look at your listings, it's part of your brain, okay? And you want to have a portfolio you're very proud of. Anything else on selection? So we talked about it needing to be newer, ideally, or price reduction, okay? If it's new to the market or price reduction, I'm good with it. Listing agents should be having the conversations with sellers as well about when and why we do open houses, correct? Because there's some that fail to have those and the sellers just want to do one every weekend. As if you're listing the house, you will save yourself a lot of headache if you set the right expectations up front with that seller, right? So for open houses, let's say you're there with the seller. Why do we hold open houses? And why do we choose to do it the way we do it generally on that first weekend?
Right, the anticipation or the hype of the house.
Okay. Increase the hype, okay. Anybody else?
To attract new clients.
Attract new clients, okay. But how do we explain that to a seller that I'm attracting clients, raising hype, doing all that, but I only do it the first week?
Because that's, you can tell them that's gonna be the highest traffic area or traffic times is when it first comes on, because anybody that's gonna be serious will be in. If not with an
Okay.
agent on that first open out.
Okay. I agree with that. So we set it up stage based, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I do not hold open houses every weekend. The way I handle open houses is I do an open house the very first weekend. That's what we strategically list either Thursday night or Friday morning, right? Okay. So we list, we'll do an open house that first weekend. The reason we do that is to maximize your exposure. Because my goal is to get as many eyes on your house and feet in your house as I possibly can. Because the more people that we get in the house, the greater the possibility of what? An offer or multiple offers. Therefore, I don't want to shortchange us and miss out on a possible offer by a buyer not being able to get in because their agent is out of town. Or that they're not represented by an agent. So we're gonna open the house that first weekend. So every possible buyer that could be interested has direct access. That's why we do it the first weekend. The reason we're not doing it the second weekend is by that time we've been on the market for close to 10 days. And every serious buyer either came in that first weekend or has scheduled a showing with their agent. Therefore, it is not effective for us to do it, again, that next weekend, okay? Now, if I set that expectation up front, I've already completely eliminated the fact of the sellers asking me to do it every weekend. Because I don't want to do it every weekend. It's not effective to do it every weekend, okay? I do it that first weekend, and then the same is true for a price reduction. Because what happens, I might have dropped that price to a point where a new pool of buyers is now able to come see this home, and I do the same thing. I hold it open to see how many potential buyers come in that weren't able to afford it before. Does that make sense? So as listing agents, you should be setting that expectation because it will save you a lot of headache later. And then that tied with you having a solid marketing plan and you leading the sellers through that so they know what's coming the next weeks. They're not gonna be requesting those open houses because they already understand the purpose of them, when we do them, why we do them, okay? And they understand the process you're now using moving forward with your marketing. So a little extra tidbit there. Okay, so it needs to show well, needs to be in a good area, needs to be priced right, not stale on the market. Okay, that is our selection criteria. Prepping it. And this is where you guys should have it kind of built out on your schedule. I think most of you do. Your prep leading up to the open house. Now, every once in a while, you might get thrown one on a Thursday. And you're like, dang, I'm really short on time here. I don't have a lot of time to get my prep in. If you need the open house, take the open house, all right? But generally, most of you on your schedule, like you're gonna identify that open house by Monday or Tuesday, right? So then you can actually spend your time leveraging the open house, okay? Because it's not just about going there and meeting 5 people at the open house, right? It's about the leverage on social media, correct? Because that looks like evidence of success. They see you holding another open house, like, dang, Greg's a listing machine. Well, may not even be your listing, but to them, they're seeing evidence of success, and that builds what? Trust, confidence, right? They're like, I can trust Jerome because I see he is listing a lot of houses. And remember, in your mind, like, well, actually, none of these are mine, but yeah, I'll absolutely list yours. And it'll be, yeah, I'll take it, okay? Yeah, so we need to be thinking about that. So, do you go out and put a time sign before? I do like that one. That's when it just goes in the yard itself next to the for sale sign. That's way before we do any of the directionals, okay? It's just boom, open house sign. They say 3 days before, fine with that, okay? That one goes out in the yard. Door knocking. Who all door knocks? Okay, 1, 2, okay, a little bit. We'll talk, hopefully we get to today, we'll talk about that verbiage and what that conversation with when you door knock looks like, okay? And how to effectively have it. Buy a clipboard, that should be part of your open house kit. This was what Alex was looking for. That open house kit, who else got one? 1, 2, Robert, you don't have one?
It's
Shameful.
put together, I mean, like,
Shameful.
I literally have it in a folder and I'm ready to go.
Just I have mine on my Jeep.
Okay. Yeah, I saw yours in your open house. It's got that nice big plastic tote. That's what I recommend. You get a plastic tote and you load that with all the things that are not house specific, right? So I have my business cards, my clipboards, my pens, my sign-in sheets, believe it or not, toilet paper, flashlight, scents things, they smell good thing, all of that stuff, you're gonna build that out. Tape measure, marble, like all those things that you potentially need, you're putting that into your open house kit, okay? And you have it ready to go. That way, every time I schedule an open house, all that I have to do is prepare the things specific to that house. Which might be maybe grab a seller's disclosure, print out some flyers for it, whatever marketing I'm doing for that house specific, it's gonna make you much more effective. Way more efficient because now I have this kit, it goes with me at every single open house, it has everything in it that I possibly need. Okay, and then I grab the property specific things, throw it in my kit, and I'm out the door ready to go. Okay, so everybody who's working open houses should have an open house kit. Again, it's not very expensive. Get you one of those plastic totes, okay, and you're gonna be good to go. All right. What about your social media? You guys have a plan for your social media for your open houses? That means, are you creating a graphic and sharing? Are you doing a video and sharing? Are you sharing it into specific neighborhood groups? Like, what is your social media plan? I'm not dogmatic on which way you go. You just need to make sure that you actually have a plan. That way, every week when we say, okay, I need to advertise an open house. What am I gonna do this week? It's like, no, it's a plan. Remember, duplicable process and system. That means I create this flyer on Canva, I'm sharing it here, I get consistent with it. Or maybe I'm doing a video with it. all of that stuff matters so that I can be very efficient. You just create yourself a checklist, create a sprint, right? Put it there with your open house agile, like, I don't care, get a list somewhere, so every time I advertise, I do this. That way I can sit down on Wednesday when it's on my, schedule, instead of sitting there thinking, hey, what am I gonna do today for, like, no, here you go, here's my list. And you may get kicked out of some Facebook groups for sharing, that's fine, all right, no worries, there's plenty of others. But you should have a process in place about how you're gonna advertise it, okay? So make sure you're thinking about that. Action, how many signs do you put out?
Last weekend I did no less than 15.
No less than 15, okay? I'm a firm believer in signs, Workman says try to put out 40, you can do what you want on that, okay? But I do like signs. I actually got to put some out for Carrie over the weekend, so she probably saw like I'm a sign person, so I put one in this corner, I put one in this corner, I would put time sign up, I put four of them in their personal yard, right? I had 4 of them there, and then she came to the directionals later. But the idea is I want as much visibility as I possibly can, right? Like I'm putting these suckers out. Now, keep in mind, if you're putting it in somebody's yard and ask permission, some people will grant it, others will not. Some people will yell at you, tell you, get off my lawn, okay, all right? But that's why I didn't mind bribing people. Hey, here's a $5 Starbucks card, Joe, let me just put this sign in your yard for 40 hours. I'll come back and
Because
get
if
it.
you put it on the other side of the sidewalk,
In the city right away.
it's not anybody's yard.
It's true, however, people will still consider that their yard and run over it with their mower, then they're done, okay? So,
Pick it up and throw it in the street,
yeah, some people do that.
and that's not even on their property.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
You're gonna lose some signs. So
You're gonna lose signs, that's part of it. However, if I go and I talk to the people whose yard it is and I create rapport with them and they realize your own's pretty cool, they're not gonna mess with these signs. You just come back and get it, give them a little thank you note, and guess what? Another relationship possibility, okay? That's why we do that. So make sure you're getting permission. Please arrive early to prep the home for the open house. I've been in the office before on Saturdays and heard agents running around before looking for their signs, like 30 minutes before their open house, okay? Don't be that agent, okay? There was nobody in here, it's actually nobody with our company still, okay? But be early, the signs should already be out. I'm prepped, I'm ready to go, I show up early, my mindset is there, I am in the game, I'm on the right channel, okay? I get there early, go in, lock the door behind you, prep the house, meaning open the curtains, let all the light in, turn on all the light, all of that good stuff, okay? Check bathrooms. Now, we also need to be looking for specific things. Are there any things in the house that could injure me? Okay, you'd be surprised. One time I had a guy left the sword. And I'm like, yeah, just laying there properly. And I was like, yeah, we'll probably put that away. Okay. Put those things away. I can put butcher blocks away with all the knives, right? Not that I expected somebody to come after me, but I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna hide those. Okay. What else do I look for? So weapons is a biggie. What else?
light bulbs, dusty, fill.
Okay.
Do quick cleanups.
Okay, I might have to do a quick little spot clean. That's true. Okay, what about money? Yes. Drugs, prescription or other, yes. Jewelry, yes. One time somebody left a big old wad of cash sitting on a dresser, okay, what do we do with that?
It's a tip.
A tip, no.
Yes.
Don't do that,
Don't do that.
okay, how do I handle that though, because I'm sitting there and they left their diamond ring right there, so.
That's exactly.
You call them, okay?
Let them know where
They're
you're
not my sellers, I don't know, who's my phone? The listing agent. The listing agent, okay, so yeah, probably a quick message over the listing agent would be a good idea. Another thing that I do is take your watch right next to it, take a picture of it, move it, hide it, take another picture, do it reverse order when you're done. So you can show that nobody took that during the open house, because we had one time we did have someone claim a diamond ring went missing. Okay, which it can never be proven one way or the other. But then I know for sure, no, it's time stamped, everything right here, boom, it was here. I moved it to the top of the closet at this time, and then it was still there. I put it back on the dresser right in there. So at that time, I locked up the house. It was there. It was not missing. Okay. So that is just something that could be a CYA thing for you, right? Because you don't want somebody to come back and say, this somebody took it, all right?
I usually do video, I'll do a video walkthrough.
There you go.
I'll walk them through, and then I'll do another one on the way.
Yeah.
Before I lock it up.
Okay, that's a good thing, good idea. So adjust the thermostat, please make it comfortable in there, right? Because again, I'm trying to avoid holding houses open that don't have working HVAC. That means I might have selected the wrong house to hold open. So I want to make sure it's comfortable, yes, make sure the bathrooms are the way they should be. Yes, you can burn some candles or some scents. I know like Shayla she'd always prepare a pie. So she'd make like an apple pie and she'd bring it, put it in the oven before, turn it on so that fresh apple pie was cooking. And then she left that as a gift to the sellers, right? So you can do things like that or cookies, you can cook cookies. You have to get their permission to use the oven before you do that, okay? So just some ideas to think about, and then that's a really nice touch for the sellers, okay, when they come home and see that. You can use some music, yes. And then, of course, we're gonna do the thank yous, which we'll get to that kind of towards the end. All right, visiting the neighbors. The target was 50 neighbors. You can create your own target. Like, I'm not gonna be dogmatic on that, but it has to be enough to be effective. Okay, and I have to be actually trying to have conversations, not just knocking doors, but having conversations. Okay, so then the question is, well, what am I going to say? Well, here's some scripting for you. Okay, this is actually the last script we're going to get to today. We'll finish. We'll do a boot camp, open house boot camp part 2. That will be just very, very dialogue heavy. Okay. But I'm going to stop by and they're going to open the door. I'm going to say, hey, my name is Matt. I'm with Remax Heritage. And I'm simply stopping by to let you know I'm holding an open house, 123 Easy Street, Sunday from 2 to 4, whatever that might be, okay? What is another really good script? I'm gonna divert you real quickly. What is a really good script for all the neighbors immediately around the house? It's very easy, a very good conversation, a reason to give them a card. Carrie, I saw your hand up first, sorry, Robert.
Do you have anyone that you can pick your own neighbors, do you have anyone that?
Okay,
You would like.
I could use that one.
Next neighbor.
Yep, I could use that. What are some other ideas?
I like yours that you told us hey, if somebody's parked in your way, give them a card, give me a call, I'll get a hold of them.
Yeah.
I've got a good response on it.
Yeah. That to me is a really good one for the immediate neighbors. Say, hey, I'm at over at Remax. I'm stopping by, just let you know I'm holding, the Smith's house, right over here, 123 Easy Street open, Saturday from 1 to 3. Just so you know, I anticipate a lot of excitement about this house. So I think there's gonna be a good amount of people stopping by, which means we could have a lot of traffic. So I just wanted to stop by and give you my card and let you know, look, if anybody parks in a way that's inconveniencing you, like blocking your driveway, mailbox, etc., give me a call right away and we'll get you sorted out. Okay, I don't want to cause any problem for you. That's it, right? Like I can use that script. And that is a very easy, non-threatening script, and people appreciate that. They're like, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Kelly posted something like that a while back over a couple weeks back. And I think she ended up taking a tour of the gentleman's house that wanted him at 700, or the listing she was holding was 780.
Yeah.
And she got to go walk through this guy's house and, it was a very good door opener, literally.
Yeah.
Something big.
Yeah. So not saying you have to use that one, but that is a really good script to have it once right around it. But on this script, remember the things that are bold and underlined, those are kind of what we call power phrase. So why would I tell them as an extra service to the Smiths, I am informed, why would I use that verbiage?
Shows you full service.
Yeah, it shows that I'm doing something beyond what a typical agent would do. So I say, look, as an extra service, I'm stopping by to let you know about the traffic, or I'm stopping by to let you know, in case you know someone who wants to move into your neighborhood. Now's your chance to come by and check it out for them, send them by my open house, right? There you go. So those are those power phrases that you want to really kind of start incorporating into your dialogue. And it makes it so much easier to go doorknob if I actually have something to say. It's very difficult at first if you just go out there and say, hey, I'm Matt, I'm a 3Max and I'm holding an open house. Oh my. It's like, no, I've actually practiced some dialogue and I'm armed with that. And it makes your conversation so much easier. And usually my experience was once they found out I wasn't trying to sell them something, because generally the door opens, 6 inches, they're like, what do you want? right? Like, let's be honest, and I used to get that a lot. I remember one time I chasing somebody up the driveway. Like they were running, like they're like, oh, he's coming, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get you. You know, and then once you catch them, then they realize you're not selling something, then we'll have a full-on conversation with you, right? It's like, I'm not here to sell you nothing, right? Like, I'm just here to tell you, somebody need to walk your driveway, call me, right? So it's amazing how some of those walls start to come down when people realize you are not selling something. Because let's be honest, we all hate when somebody knocks on our door, wants to sell us bug spray, okay?
Do you have a solution if they don't answer the door?
No, I'm just gonna leave them a flyer.
Okay.
Right.
That was my
Yeah, and you can put a little handwritten note on, hey, I stopped by just as a courtesy to let you know this was going on. Here you go.
Or flapping the
Okay.
door.
Yeah.
I'll get, I don't know if anybody can do it. Seems like everybody these days has the door.
Right.
I'll do my full spiel right there to the.
You can do that. Right into the ring. Yep, 100%. Okay. Okay, so when we come back next time, we're gonna start getting into all the dialogue for when the person actually comes into the house. Okay, and then how because the first thing is we're gonna be an information giver and gatherer. And then we're gonna move into what we call labeling that looker. And then that is all setting the stage to get into that dialogue I gave you to secure the appointment. Okay? Any questions?
Yeah, I have one real quick.
Yes.
So. The open house and the clipboard should be used? Okay, you just use open
You
house.
can use one or the other.
Okay, so it's great where sign it, maybe send it on them, that's the.
Yeah. Some people prefer the app. I was so old school, I just like paper.
My problem is that they're don't write it legibly, you got nothing to go off.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That
That
can
can
happen.
work this week.
Yeah.
That can happen. Okay. So there is some risk with that. But
And the open house app goes directly into.
and it was right in your bolt trail. Yeah. And then you just need to make sure that you go in there and confirm that the right things are set up and all that.
But can't you, on that open house app, I mean, yes, you may log in and have it on your phone and things like that, but can't you, if you have an older, a lot of people have a lot of, tablets laying or a tablet laying around.
I use my iPad.
I was gonna say, can't you use the same account and then it still collects even if it's not hooked up, or can you just like tether it to your phone? Or do you know?
I actually do not know. So you're saying you're not connected anymore?
Yeah, the tablet's just,
Tablets,
gaming purposes.
that I don't know. Does anybody else know on that? If you're
Well, I
not
do know you have to make sure that, so I use the hotspot on my phone,
Yeah.
otherwise it won't collect it.
Cause I mean, it's just kind of,
Okay.
I'm just guessing that
Yeah.
using the phone, it would be kind of weird if you had it laid out in some.
So that would be the thing, if you had a tablet or computer using either the seller's Wi-Fi or a hotspot. Another, last thing I will say, when you're doing these open houses, because next time we're getting into dialogue. You need to act like every single one of those houses is being recorded, because they probably are.
Yeah.
Okay, because what I don't wanna get is a complaint from one of our agents from a seller that, hey. I heard what your agent said. I remember one time we had, it was on my team, I was in Blue Springs, we had a seller. And their artwork was not probably to my taste and probably not to the taste of a lot of folks, it was very eccentric. And there was an agent there holding it open, not from our team. And somebody came through and they and that client were making fun of the artwork that was out. Right, so that really offended her, our seller. So the seller calls us and they're upset, and we're just like, what do you say to that? It's like, I am terribly sorry that happened, I'll have that conversation with the agent, but it really does not put us in a good light. So you gotta make sure when you are there, I mean, you have to pretend that seller is right there with you, okay? Everything you say, we have to be very guarded. If somebody says something negative about the house, spin it positive. Don't be laughing at their stuff, I just be very, very careful.
Is it wrong to, give buyer that heads up when you're going through a house, say, hey, just pay attention, act like you think there's a camera on you, because there's a good chance.
You could, I'd probably be careful, because then you're probably on camera saying that, right? So they're like, okay, why are you giving the heads up? So just be careful. I think the biggest thing is what you can control you can't necessarily control the buyer per se. Because generally when we get the complaint is when the agent has entered into the conversation with the buyer, okay? Because as an agent, I want to deflect that and say, well, I understand that, but look at these positive features of the house, right? Okay?
So you just try to move, I mean, you could say it, there was, like, but everybody has their own way of setting up their houses or building extra stuff on them.
Yeah. Actually, that's a beautiful thing, we all enjoy different things.
Right,
You know, what were some of the positive things you saw in the house, right, so I'm just gonna deflect that and just move right on. And I'm not gonna sit there and laugh, see, yeah, that's pretty terrible, isn't it?
but
You know? Yeah, you may be thinking it, but we're not gonna say it, right? Okay? Alright, guys, thank you for being here, hopefully you took at least one nugget. If you got one nugget that's gonna change either some of your dialogue or how you set things up, your beliefs, etc., then today's a win, right? Because then you go change that in your business. And you come back next time, change the next piece and change the next piece. Because everything is made to be as simple as possible for you, right? Because you have processes and systems for everything. If you heard something that you're like, I'm gonna change my buyer process a little bit. Leave this room and immediately go change it. Go tweak it in the process, right? That's how you start refining your systems to the point where you are just boom, 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 firing on all cylinders, providing that amazing experience. And then when it comes time to expand someday, you're ready for expansion, okay? So don't just let the knowledge sit here, put it into either your objection journal, put it in your buyer or seller process, or go tweak an agile. Every time you go to a class or conference, it is so easy for you all because we have that all in place. You just go make the little tweaks. And then since you've made that tweak, now you start behaving according to it because you're seeing it in your plan on your daily schedule. You're seeing it in your process. Okay? So that's how you guys are gonna be rock stars. All right? Okay, before the concert, my pleasure.
Yep.